All right, so this week we're doing our vinyl cut project, which really has to do with using the Pathfinder and the expand shape options. So I'm going to walk you through the entire project, start to finish, real quick, just so you can get an idea of thing together. So if you're confused about some of the instructions, you've got a video that actually walks you through it. So first up, I've got my instruction sets here. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm assuming you've read through all the rubrics, and we're going to dive in right here to the instructions. So I'm going to sort of minimize my instructions right over here to the side a little bit. And obviously I have Gravit open in this window right over here. So number one, create a Gravit file, 5 inches by 5 inches. Make sure you pick inches. So I'm going to go with 5 by 5. And I'm going to make sure I select inches and I'm going to hit create. And that creates my page that is 5 by 5 inches. You can check that right up here in your page details. So 5 by 5 inches. So add guides to create a 4-inch by 4-inch box. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to get my rulers out. So there are my rulers. I'm going to grab and drag so that I get my marks. So now to make it 4 inches by 4 inches, I'm going to drag out markers to the 1/2 inch mark on both sides and on top and bottom. So my guides are at a 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches, a 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. That gives me a set of guides that gives me a 4-inch by 4-inch working space in the middle. And the reason for that has to do with the actual production of these stickers. So I do ask that you stick with that view value, okay? So I'm zoomed in. So now this is my entire 5-inch by 5-inch artboard with my 4-inch by 4-inch box. So create a vinyl sticker in the box. Has to be school appropriate. Use your own basic ideas. It should be more complicated than just typing in letters and numbers. Use multiple shapes joined together, and it should have some connection to you. So to do this, I just need some ideas. So I'm sitting here drinking my Diet Coke, and I noticed there's this little icon right here on my soda, the little trash guy. So I'm just going to recreate the trash guy for this project. It's not really that important to me, but it's a good example and it shows all the different tools. Okay. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the sort of requirements. It has to be solid fill black. Anything that's a small or a narrow line isn't going to cut very well. So you're going to want to thicken those up. You want to avoid tiny little holes or white space. It's got to fit within that 4x4. It doesn't have a border, and we have to convert text to paths. So real quick, I'm going to draw my logo. So I'm looking at my example. I'm going to try and do it pretty quick here. So very first, we've got a circle for our head. We've got a circle for our head, and we need sort of our body shape. So to do the body, I'm actually going to do a few different things. I'm going to start out with just lines. Okay. And I'm going to go draw a line up. I'm going to hold down the shift button so that it is straight. And I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to say maybe there. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to put caps on the end. And the reason for that is that it's going to sort of put together the cap values that I want for drawing the legs. I'm going to copy and paste that real quick. So I've got 2 of them pretty close together. Okay, looking at my image again, I need an arm and a main body. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to grab rectangle, do something as a main body kind of shape. Again, I'm going to fill it with black because that is the color we have to have. And then I'm going to go in and I want my corners to be rounded. So let's take a look here. And so our corners are right here. I'm going to drag that and I'm going to say, oh, we'll do something like that. And I'm looking at my demo, my example piece, and it turns out that the body is the same size as the legs. So I'm going to make those about the same size. I'm going to drag this leg and just sort of line it up. So I've got my body. And then I need an arm that sort of goes up and over and is throwing away the trash. So to do that, I'm going to just grab some lines real quick. Start here. Whoop. mess that one up. So grab a line again, start here. I'm going to go out. Okay, and again, I'm going to sort of try and line this one up right to the beginning. I should maybe even simplify my life a little. Just drag this one out. It gives me my curved shoulders. We've got to have a line going down for this arm. It's a little far out, so I'm just going to shrink it a little bit, move this one in. And that right there makes me think, well, this is going to be a little too narrow. So I do want to drag that back out a little bit. There we go. There's our arm. And then we have to have sort of our throwaway arm. And we're going to try and match all this. What is it? We had 17 pixel border. So jump that up to 17. And then I do have to go ahead and make those rounded caps. And once again, we're going to grab this, and he's got a horizontal arm that sticks out. Once again, jump that up to 17. I'm just making these match real quick. So there's my other chunk. It seems like it's sticking out a little far, so I am going to shrink that back and move these back to line up. Okay, so looking okay so far. I notice this one sticking out a little forward, making kind of a funny shoulder, so I'm going to move that around, move this one around. Oop. There we go. We're going to call that good. I'm going to grab my head here real quick, fill it black the way it should have been, and maybe sort of line it up a little better. Works for me. Next up, I need the trash can. So I'm going to go ahead and use the pen tool for that. Click, 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 click. That was real easy. Again, the pen tool is that super easy for making those continuous lines. And I'm going to go ahead and jump that up to 17 pixels as well. And looking at my image, I am also going to make that rounded end caps. Perfect. Move this one over a little bit. And then we need some trash. And in that case, I think they used some squares for their trash. So I'm just going to go ahead, hold down the shift key, make a perfect square, make it black. And then I'm going to copy and paste that a few times. So there we go. There is our entire logo that we're building. Okay. Once again, not perfect, but it's a great start. Okay. So now the things we have to do is we have to make sure that these are shaped correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select all of my objects, and I'm going to drag them into that layer. Now, why am I doing this? It's because when I have them in a layer, I can look at where the lines are. So if I click on this little object meatball right here, what this does is this actually lets me look at the values of each line. So if I look at this, when it cuts with the vinyl cutter, all the machine sees are these lines. It doesn't see the borders or the values you've assigned. It only sees the actual paths that you've drawn. So I need to change some of these so that they actually will work in the way we need to do it. So over here, we notice that instead of the thick border that we want, we only have a thin line, so I have to modify the trash can. I'm going to have to work with the arms, legs, and body. Otherwise, it's just going to cut all of these individual lines and not the outlines that I want. So to do that, we have to modify these paths and shapes. So in order to do this, what we're actually going to do is vectorize the borders. Basically, what it does is it turns it from a single line like this into the outline like this one. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on an object. So in this case, I'm going to start with my trash can. And I'm going to come up here to modify, path, vectorize border. And what that does is it takes the border, the actual outline, and it changes it from being this central line to being the outside. So I vectorize it. And now if I look at it, it's the outside edge shape. And that's what I want. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to select all of my objects that are single lines. So it's going to be my legs, okay, my legs and my arms and I'm going to go ahead and go modify path vectorized border. I'm going to double check, make sure I didn't miss any. Now look, I missed one. I missed the shoulder piece. So now it's kind of hard to grab it. So I'm going to click through my actual list in my layer, and there I've got it held, modify, path, vectorized border. Okay, and once again, I'm seeing this because I'm clicking on this meatball, the toggle outline button that lets me see. Now, here's sort of the next step. While changing the trash can to a vectorized border worked great and it simplified everything, when I vectorized my person, it created the outlines, but each of these is now their own thing. So if I try and cut this, it's going to cut this oval, that oval, the big rectangle, the two giant long legs. That doesn't really work. So what we need to do is we need to use the Pathfinder options, and we need to merge all of these into a single shape. So it just has a single outline. Now, this has got some different names in different programs. I use the term Pathfinder in general because that's sort of a common term in many programs, including things like Illustrator and Corel Draw. In Gravit, what they do is they call it creating a compound shape, which is something else as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these pieces that go together so that they're all selected. I'm going to come up here to the top to my Pathfinder or my create compound shape. And there are four options: union, subtract, intersect, and difference. In this case, I want to union them. I want to merge the area of all of these elements. Now, over here, it just says of two elements, but it really is, it's going to union everything I've got selected. So I click union, and I look at it, and well, something happened, right? This arm disappeared, so that's no good. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to right click over here on my compound shape. Okay. And there are a few things. We can ungroup it, uncompound it. Basically, I'm going to hit Control Z on my keyboard and undo it. So the question is, well, why did it do that? Is that because I had more than two shapes? Well, let's look here. Something's going on right down in there. So I'm going to take a look and see if we can figure out what that is. All right. So looking at it, what it looks like is happening is I've got an odd overlap the way that they are just sitting on top of each other. So the easy way to fix that, and this is one of the things you'll have to do, is sort of figure out where your issues are, is I'm just going to drag this guy a little bit to the left. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Just move him a little bit to the left. And then again, I'm going to drag over all of these and we'll see what happens. Union, look, now they're all one big thing. Now, the big important piece of this is that now when I go look at my layers, you'll notice I have one outline now. I've no longer got a whole bunch of different values. Right before this, it looked like this. But again, if I select them all, combine them, it becomes one outline. And that's what the vinyl cutter is actually going to see. Now, the big question people always have is, well, why can't I use colors? Why can't I use colors? And that has to do with what we're actually producing. We're basically making a vinyl cutout, which is produced with a single piece of vinyl sticker. And so through the magic of video, you're going to see what happens. Just 1 second. Boom. Through the magic of editing, we've gone from our digital design to this. Doesn't look like much, does it? So this is vinyl sticker material. Okay, this is something called Oracal is the company that makes it. And this one happens to be an orange, and it's really kind of hard to see. But what's happened is that our cutting machine, our vinyl cutter, has actually cut out the design on this piece of plastic. Now, obviously, we've got a little work to do, so let's take a look at the next step, which is actually called weeding, which is removing the excess vinyl from your design. And we're going to look at two different versions, both a positive and a negative version of your image. Okay, positives and negatives of your image. So here is our piece of orange vinyl. I've got basically it's a push pin on a stick. Okay, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the excess outside of my 4x4 inch square, or roughly my actually 5x5 inch square. So this is my 5x5 inch. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a positive image. So a positive image means that we're leaving the material that we want. So we're going to leave this portion, the person with the trash, as part of the vinyl. So what I have to do is I come in here and I start looking and I say, well, here's the edge. I start peeling. And right away you can see that it turns almost instantly into our image. So we have our positive image of our design. Now it's mirrored because of the camera, not because of the cutout. So just be aware of that. But this is a positive image. It's left the positive values of our design on there. Next, let's take this second one, because I cut two of these exactly the same. I'm going to remove my outer edge. And this one we're going to do a negative image. So in this case, with a negative image, what we're actually going to do is we're going to remove the actual design pieces. So we'll remove the head, body, the trash, and the trash can. And to do that again, I'm just going to use my push pin to start finding the corners. It lifts up really easy, and it goes. Now you'll notice as I peeled, this little strip was really, really flimsy. It tried to pop off, okay? And that's, again, why we want to make sure that we don't have super thin areas on our design. Pop out my 3 pieces of trash and my trash can. So this is called a negative image. And what it means is that we removed what we wanted visually shown from our design and left the outer space. So we have a positive and a negative image. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of the border frames on both of these. These are what are called weed border frames, and they just allow the machine to actually line it up. So now from here, you have to have a way of taking your design and getting it onto a surface. And that's what we use something called transfer tape for. And let's see how we do that. So transfer tape is something like this. It comes in a roll of lots of different sizes. This happens to be a small piece. All it is basically regular Scotch tape, except the adhesive on this is usually a little less sticky than on a normal roll of, say, clear Scotch tape. Okay, so here's how these stickers work. The vinyl itself is sticky. In fact, all this weeded material, you'll notice, sticks to my finger because it's basically tape. Okay, now transfer tape works because the adhesive here is stronger, will create a stronger bond between the tape and the vinyl than the bond between the vinyl and its backing paper, so this white. So when I take this tape, I'm just going to kind of lay it out over both of these. And I'll take a knife and I'll just cut it off, set that aside. So I've got transfer tape now on top of both of these. It's a little hard to see, but you can sort of get the idea. And I'm going to take a squeegee. Okay, this is a vinyl squeegee. It's got soft edge. It's plastic. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rub, because I want the transfer tape to stick to my vinyl sticker. So I'll take that, rub it on. Then I'm just going to take a knife, and again, I'm going to cut out my images. I just managed to cut myself, but that's okay. We'll survive. And so what we're going to do now is we've got these, and these are now ready to apply to a surface. Okay, and what surface we choose to apply them to is up to us. So in this case, I'm going to grab an old canister of wet wipes, okay, so cleaning Perks wipes, and I'm going to apply both of these to that. So I'm going to grab this one. So like I said, the transfer tape has a stronger bond with the vinyl than the backing, so I can real carefully peel up, and my sticker sticks to my transfer tape, not the backing paper. We come over to whatever surface I'm attaching this to. So in this case, I'm going to stick it right here. I sort of lightly set it on there, take my squeegee and push. And what's happening now is the actual vinyl, the orange vinyl, is creating a stronger bond with its backup surface than with the transfer tape. So as I peel, the transfer tape comes off, but leaves the design on our surface. Okay. So that's the basics of how we do this. The important things to remember are that in our design, we have to make sure that we just have a set of outlines that we want the laser, or excuse me, the vinyl cutter to cut. Okay. Any line you see here when you've got the toggle outline option activated, that is the only thing that the vinyl cutter is going to see. So make sure that you convert everything to shapes and outlines for your design. But that's the basics of how we put it all together in one giant piece to create a basic vinyl sticker.